Hi everyone, Sarah here. I'm going to give you a quick lesson on unnamed procedures and let form in Scheme. So let's go ahead and we'll define some global variables here. X equals 5, Y equals 7, and a global procedure. So we're going to define the procedure multiply. We'll input parameters X and Y, and we are going to perform X times Y. So basically multiply equals X times Y. These are global variables, global procedures. These can be used anywhere throughout your program where it makes sense to have a variable or procedure. So now if we go ahead and we multiply X times Y, we should get 35, which we do. Okay, now going into let forms right here with our first example. So let forms allow us to give names to local variables. Basically allows us to define local variables. It allows us to give a name to a value. The scope of the local variables is only within inside the body of the let form. So the let form has the form of let and then your local variables. So in this case, I have X equals 8, Y is equal to 9. You can have as many variables as you want. And then this is the body. So my body is going to be X multiplied by 9. So if we run this, we have X equals 8, Y equals 9. Go ahead and multiply 8 by 9, and we should get 72, which we do. And now let's go ahead and try the second example. So we have defined that let A equal to 8, B will be equal to A plus 1, and our body says that we want to do A times by B. Now, you might be thinking that this is saying the local variable A is equal to 8 and B is equal to 9, like how up here we have X equals 8 and Y equals 9, but keep in mind that the scope of these local variables is only within inside the body of the let form. So we cannot use one of the local variables to define the value of another local variable. So when we try to run this, it'll say that we can't reference an identifier before it's been defined. So there's no guarantee that this 8 equals 8 or this A equals 8 already exists yet. So if this was a global variable, however, say this is X is equal to 8, and then we have the global, we can still have it as A actually. And then we have the global variable X, remember. So X was 5. So now we would have A is equal to 8. B is equal to 5 plus 1, which is 6. And 8 times 6 should be 48. Perfect. So you can use your global variables inside your local variables when you're defining them, but you cannot use a local variable to define another local variable. And now I just wanted to remind you, so we printed X and Y here as 5 and 7. So even though up here in this let form we defined X to be 8 and Y to be 9, just remember these are only valid with inside the body of the let form. These do not change your global variables. They just create new local variables that will disappear after the let form has been evaluated. Now example 2. Let's go over unnamed procedures. So unnamed procedures allow you to have a higher level of abstraction in your code. So instead of having to define a procedure that you can then go on and call later on, Lambda allows you to create a procedure that does not have to have a name, it does not need to be called. It's a higher level of abstraction. So as I already said, Lambda is a procedure. So in Scheme, you have the form of, you have your parentheses, you have the first thing on the left is your operator. So could be a procedure, could be an operator, so a plus, minus, multiply, divide. It could be like append, so a string procedure. So in this case, you can see inside our brackets, we have the lambda, which is our operator. So in this case, it is our procedure being applied to the values, the input values X and Y, which in this case, X and Y, these X and Y are our global variables that we have defined. So you can put global variables as the input into a lambda. So lambda has the unnamed procedure has a form of lambda, x and y. These are going to be your parameters. And then here's the body of the lambda is x plus y. And then at the end, after you've defined the lambda procedure, your unnamed procedure, that's when you go ahead and put what your actual input would be. So in this case, we have 5 and 7. The lambda, the unnamed procedure is adding 5 plus 7. And when we run it, we should get 12, which is perfect. So now here's just another example that we don't have to use global variables as the input into an unnamed procedure. You can also use just plain old variables that you put in yourself if you would like, that have not been defined globally. So now if we want, we can go ahead and run that again, and it'll give us the same output. Now going on to example 3, we're going to start showing how we can convert from lambda, or from a let form to a lambda, and then of course you can go from an unnamed procedure to a let form as well. So we have defined this global procedure to be global procedure with the input parameters A, B, and C, and it's going to perform A plus B plus C. So if we go ahead and we run global procedure, 10 plus 10 plus 10 should be 30. So go ahead and look over this let form, try and figure out what the local variables will be and what the output of the body call will be. So go ahead and pause the video and take a few seconds and see if you can't figure that out. Okay, so for our local variables, we will be defining A equals to 10, B equals to 10, and C is equal to 10. And then our body call, so these local variables, their existence, or their, their scope is only within this body. So we're calling global procedure and then the local variables 10 plus 10 plus 10. So essentially the same thing as defining the global procedure and then calling the global procedure. It's another way of having a higher level of abstraction. So now if we run both, we should get back 30. So we got back 30 for both. And now let's go ahead and convert this let form to an unnamed procedure. So we have two unnamed procedures here. So we have lambda, our parameters are A, B, and C, and we are going to be calling the global procedure with the parameters A, B, and C, and our input in this case, again, we can have our global variables as input into an unnamed procedure. So here's our procedure, you can see, here's our procedure, is the lambda, it's the unnamed procedure, and it's being applied to the global variables x, y, and z. And then we also can, again, the same example, just showing that we can also have just unbound variables as well as input. So we have not defined these be global variables. These are just our own input. So again, when we run these, it should be x and y, which is 5 and 7 is 12, plus 15, which is 27. And then again, global procedure 10, 10, and 10 was 30. And now example 4, this is a bit of a more complicated example. And this is applying everything that we have learned so far. So go ahead and read over example 4. Take a couple minutes and pause the video. See if you can't figure out what the local variables are, what the calls are in the bodies, and what this let form will return. Okay, so let's go over this. So we have our let form, and for our local variables, it looks like we're defining A, and we are defining B. And so we're saying that A will be bound to the return value of this lambda, of this unnamed procedure. So this is the exact same procedure that we had up here. So we have our lambda, our input parameters of A, B, and C, and we're calling global procedure A, B, and C on the input X, Y, and Z, which we already saw that this output here was 27. And now we are bounding B as a local variable to lambda ABC, calling global procedure ABC with the input values of 10, 10, and 10, which was 30. So now, here's the body of the let form. The body is just A plus B. So we have defined the local variable A to be 27, the local variable B to be 30, and now we will add A plus B. And we should get back 57. And that is the end of the lesson. Hopefully you guys understood everything I talked about. If you need any further clarification, please reach out. And I wish you the best of luck on your final.